All right, hello, this is here. How y'all doing? So good to see you. Please, enough of the punishments. Please be seated. So good to be here. It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Pastor. Funny how myself and your resident pastor actually attended the same university. Shows that he's an ancestor. He's been there several years before myself. It's such a pleasure to be here. Such a pleasure. Um, the schedule is really busy and super tight. But the moment my team conveyed the fact that DCC wanted us to do this, I just approved immediately. I mean, I've got such huge respect for your lead pastor and his wife and all the amazing things that go on here. So, such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. All right, so good to be here. I saw Ose. Where is he? A nonsense boy. Also, now your church be this. Thankfully, so you're a Christian. So I think Ose does the best crowd work in the country. I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking. He was this close to failing in his career, his comedy career. I don't know how it somehow resurrected. He's God. Thank God. At least you still believe in him. The reason I'm taking so much jabs at him is because he always has a go at me every single time he sees me at one comedy club or another or any event. And he does so cautiously and then loses the caution again. So good to see you, sir. And it's such a pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone. So just get strapped in. We're about to have an amazing time. I'm actually stylishly waiting for my mic, which is coming in a bit. But I think before it gets here, is it is it closed? Because I need to know what to do, and I wouldn't want anything stopping my flow when I begin. So maybe I'll just kick off and then pause at some point. Okay. I just need to know the time. How many minutes? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Okay, interesting. Okay, so I'm told that we have, apart from my keynote address, we're supposed to have some sort of a masterclass afterwards. So I have a whole lot prepared for both of the sessions. And even though I kind of had my focus changed a little bit before I came up, we're still going to be in for a short time. So pretty much I'm going to be talking about showing up in the area of personal branding today. Showing up in what? The area of personal branding. And just before I begin, if I were to ask you a very interesting question about what personal branding is, I'm sure it will definitely elicit different reactions from the crowd. I mean, different people will have different things to say. You know, growing up, we used to think that branding was what was printed by people. By printed, I mean personal branding, or rather, branding itself was usually stuffs like flyers, maybe sometimes logos, sometimes all the things they call branded materials were more or less like, how do I put it? Emblems, right? Or sometimes maybe physical things that portray or tell the story of a brand one way or another. And when we talk about personal branding, in my opinion, it's a little bit much more intricate and slightly different than that. So branding tells deeper stories than just flyers, or what do I put? Or do I say banners or logos or even the font sizes of things? Now, by way of ensuring that you get what I just said, I want to ask you a very interesting question. If I told you that I saw someone with a red tie and a black suit with red socks, and the person is a Pan-African entrepreneur, who comes to mind? We're getting there. If I told you I saw a woman tying gele and look at that. Now it gets a bit more interesting. Imagine I told you I saw someone who is an Afrobeat artist and I saw him wearing white singlets, jean. Someone said it already. Whiskey. We're getting there. If I told you that, for example, I saw someone and I couldn't really tell who he was, but I just saw him acting in a very interesting manner, acting a bit like a prisoner, and was quite uneasy, jumping from place to place in a bit of a boisterous manner. Who comes to mind? Portable or Molalo? Me. Now, there's a reason I started that way. It's because if you want to know what branding is, branding goes beyond what a logo is. Branding goes beyond what a font size is. Branding goes beyond all the things that we many times package people to be visibly. I put it this way. Branding in a simple sense is reputation. Are you getting what I'm saying? Branding is what? Reputation. Branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Because all the people I just mentioned here are literally not in this room. But if you noticed, I didn't mention their names, neither did I really mention any of their songs or mention any of the famous speeches they ever gave at any given point in time. All I did was simply mention something that I could associate with them. And that already struck a chord in your minds as to who I might be referring to. Does this make any sense whatsoever? And what if I told you that every single person here has got a personal brand? Every single person here has got opinions about other people. But as much as you have opinions about other people, others have opinions about you. And a whole lot of time, we are so quick to telling people what we think about others, forgetting that other people also have opinions about us. We're in a generation where people lack self-awareness. Everybody has something to say about other people, forgetting that people also have something to say about them. And so here's the point. There's something we try to say in self-leadership. It's a technique, or rather, do I call it a theory that tries to help explain some good aspect of public opinion. It's something called the Johari window. The Johari window talks about 4 different parts of yourself. It says there's the open self. The open self is what you know about yourself that others know. And then there's something called the hidden self. Things about you that you know but others do not know. Maybe some secrets, some deep stuff about you that no other person kind of knows about, which is fair. And then again, the third part of the Johari window is the blind self. The blind self are parts of yourself that you do not know, but others know. Have you ever had a friend that does? In case you don't know what bar is, you guys are a bit too tush. To bar means to smell like locust beans, aka Iru. To bar means to stink in such a way that when the person is coming, almost everybody knows the person has arrived. Now, how many of you know that many times friends who probably have body odor or mouth odor are not really aware of the odors that they elicit? So they talk, bro, now then they like the talk pass. Bro! And you're like, yo! Stuff like that. And that thing really gets me. And sometimes it makes me overly self-aware. One of my fun facts about my life is very weird. I use body spray like 4 times a day. My wife thinks I have an issue. And trust me, I don't smell like that. Trust me. But I'm overly too self-aware that I feel like every single time, if I take my bath at 1 a.m., you don't hear I must never be caught on fresh. Now, honestly speaking, right, this stems from the fact that I have learned to try to rise up to a standard that I demand from others. Are you getting what I'm saying? A whole lot of us are so good and quick to talk about what other people are, but caring so little about how others find us and what their opinions about us are. Look, I know we tell you as pastors, he has casted me that I'm a pastor. So I know we tell you as pastors every time, you are who the Lord says you are. Forget about what others think. Forget about this, forget about that. That is true in a context. In terms of finding your self-worth. Are you getting my point? However, you will never amount to anything in a society full of people if you don't care about what the people there think about you. It might not matter who doesn't like you, but it matters who likes you. It matters. Because almost everything you will ever amount to or become will be tied to who you know or who knows you. So it matters. And so, back to the concept of your blind self. It talks about aspects about you that you don't know, but others know about you. And so here's my point. As long as you're in the midst of people, public opinions matter. As long as you're in the midst of people, it counts and matters what people think about you. Enough of trying to excuse away your bad behavior because you feel, I don't care. I can be bad all by myself and it doesn't matter what they think. Well, 1 decade later, you realize that all the opportunities you might have lost on the grounds of your nonchalant behavior would have cost you a whole lot more than you could have thought about. And so it matters. And so every single person you see has a personal brand. In some of my private coaching sessions, I coach HNIs and entrepreneurs, many who aren't even in the country. And we get into very intense conversations. In fact, our first and second sessions are always like therapy. Statistically, 70% of them end up crying because I tell them bitter truths that they were yet to uncover in their lives. So here's my point. I'm still going to talk to you about personal branding, but there's a foundation I must lay. And here's the foundation. Many of us are so particular about the subject of personal branding, but we have failed to pay attention to the person that is about to be branded. The person that is about to be what? To be branded. Listen, personal branding simply means amplifying a person and improving and taking his personal image to a wider audience. But the question is, what is the image we are taking to a wider audience? And this brings to fore the subject of the limelight. Many of us forget that the limelight is simply an amplifier. It only amplifies everything that you give it, which means that the limelight does not change you. It instead amplifies what and who you are. And so if you give the limelight rubbish, it will amplify rubbish. If you give the limelight something great, it will paint it and shine it to the entire world and let people know you for how good and great you are. However, here's where it gets very interesting. The limelight doesn't forgive. Because listen and listen well. The limelight is designed in such a way that when it commends for all to see. But when it condemns even much more intensely than you probably could have imagined. And so I always tell people, look, I can teach you personal branding for the next 5 hours and I won't look at a single piece of note. But here's not the gist here. Today, because of the kind of audience I'm speaking to, and you guys are church family, and so I need to tell you this very well. Before I talk about all the whole branding jargon, I need to start by saying, is the person intact before we seek to amplify him? Some of you have no business trying to brand yet because you are still yet to lead yourself and regulate yourself to a given extent. Because if you brand prematurely, your fingers will get burnt. And many times you must understand that if you seek to brand prematurely and you get into the public gaze and the attention of everyone seems to be fixed on you, something interesting will happen. It is that you will feel the punishing effect of the limelight. The moment the light comes on you, it shows everything that was private and makes it become public, including all your issues, all the character flaws you have failed to manage, the ones mommy and daddy corrected you about, but you felt they did not like you. Yes. The ones that made you lose 4 friends in 1 year, but you are not the one at fault. You say it's all your friends that were wrong. They lost a gem. The one that made 4 people break up with you. If you enter the first room and it is smelling, something could have been wrong. If you enter the second room and it's smelling, third room, you are the one that is smelling now. Everybody can be wrong about you. And so listen and listen well. The foundation of building a successful personal brand that will stand the test of time is that you must have a formidable character, and you must ensure that you have led yourself before you seek to lead others. The reason I'm saying this is I teach people holistically. I don't just give you punchlines and you go. If I want this place to erupt in the next 1 minute, I will tell you some words. You start shouting, whoa, 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 deep. But what happens when I take you to that crescendo and then you leave here thinking, oh, I can be bad all by myself. And then 1 or 2 years down the line, your brand has nosedived and there's almost no way to resurrect it. Let me tell you something. It is harder to rebuild a brand than it is to build one from the start. I tell you this from the bottom of my heart. And so if all I'm coming here to do is to tell you, oh, brand, move fast, do everything you need to do as fast as possible. Bam, 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 bam. As cute as that sounds, in the next 3 to 4, 5 years, because you are branded prematurely and fail to solve specific issues before you got to the limelight, it would obviously do you no good when you get there. And so the first thing we need to get out of the way is we need to pay attention to the person that needs branding first. Because you can't give what you don't have. You can't what? You can't give what you don't have. And so ask yourself, why am I so much in a hurry to get other people to fix their gaze on me? How am I so much in a hurry to tell people all the stories? And now, this is not to say you are not ready, but this is to say that you must pay so much attention to yourself first before you seek to have others fix their gaze on you. You know, in my short life, I've seen people rise to the pinnacle of their careers or rise to the peak of their social status, and everything comes crumbling within the space of a short period. And then I realized that it is actually harder to climb the stairs, but easier to come down. You know, it was Bishop David Oyedepo who said that whatever brings a man down was in his baggage on his way up. Whatever brings a man down was in his what? Was in his package on his way up. And so this means that if you are really going to take anything home today, it will be that building a brand is easy. Sustaining it and ensuring that you don't drop the ball is where the real work is. And so let's sort all of these out as fast as we possibly can. Let's sort it out as fast as we possibly can. So what aspects of myself do I need to pay attention to? What parts of my life need work? Have I sorted out the issues of laziness that are currently plaguing me? Or do I need to wait till I make it before I get there? And so that's just a very interesting thing. What are the minute issues that need sorting out before we now focus on the brand? But having said that, personal branding is one of the things that you need to truly fulfill and maximize your potential, particularly in career and business in this day and age. But I had to get that out of the way as fast as possible. So remember, the person is more important than the brand. The person is the foundation for a successful brand. And so this means that there are some personal habits in your life you might have to do away with as fast as possible. And new ones you have to embrace. Things like lifelong learning. Things like grit and indefatigableness. Things like collaboration. All of these things are very important at the base level before you now think of doing anything else. Are we clear about that? All right. Now, let's say that the large people in this population already have that sorted out and have already built, formidability as human beings, confidence as individuals, and have great characters and now want to project themselves. Where do I go from here? Which is pretty much my assignment. You see, Daniel Presley said something that I think is so brilliant. He said, and I quote, 60% of people will rather buy from personal brands than established businesses. Take that again. How many percent? 60% of people. For context, Steve Bartlett, the owner of the Diary of a CEO podcast, has more followers. I repeat, more followers than the BBC. Or rather, times 2 more followers than Channel 4. And I think about half the followers of the BBC. If you add all the following of all the major cosmetic brands, the major luxury cosmetic brands in the world put together, it's not up to half of the following of Kylie Jenner or Kylie Kardashian or whatever her name is. Now, for context, add the entire following of all Nigeria's major news and television institutions. Put them together. It's not up to the following of someone like Funke Akindele. Add the following of even our own personal company that she created and built to the top, Scene One Productions. Add Biowa Films and all those ones in the Didi Lane that they tell you to go and watch then. Umuaya Road on Onitsha. This one, that. Put everything together. It pales in comparison to what she commands as a personal brand. Now, here's where I'm headed. It simply is that people will Google you before they Google your business. You know why? It is because since the turn of the century, there has actually been a major paradigm shift from institutions being the main beacons of credibility to human beings. You see, media has been decentralized, and we need to pay attention to how important and how vital a time in history that we are in. You know, back in the day, if you needed to grow in credibility around the world, you know what you're going to do? You're going to look for established news institutions. In fact, back in the day, I heard Dr. Sam Adeyemi say this, and I think it's so profound. He says, everyone who controlled the political arena controlled the media. In fact, in most cases, all of them owned media houses. From the Azikues to the MKO Abiolas, they own stuff. And even your current presidents. They all own media houses. You know why? Because if you can control narratives, you can shape what? The future. And that's exactly what they thought, and that's exactly how they've always believed. But listen, something interesting happened the moment a young man in the name Mark Zuckerberg decided to create a social media platform that more or less eliminates centralization and now democratizes information from person to person in such a profound way. And so Facebook came, Twitter came, and many more institutions came. And beyond that, what that simply did was that it moved power from institutions to people. It moved power from bodies to individuals. It did. And this means, and it calls for very sober reflection, because if you're not making the most of it, then something is wrong. And remember, if personal branding simply is what people say about you when you are not in the room, the goal here should be, how can I get more people to say positive things about me when I'm not in the room? Are you getting what I'm saying? And so this is very important and very crucial. Very important and very crucial. And so we're at a point in history where it is possible. It is possible. I can, to my personal advantage, utilize social media and even any sort of media to ensure that I get desired results. And so very quickly, I want to share something from the bottom of my heart that, in my opinion, will help you and set you on course in the fastest possible way. Know that many times when you make people feel good, it does not mean you told them the truth. And so I found out that there was some credible balance with what I had to say, and which was great. And as God will have it, and thank God for his providence, he put me at a particular point in history where the vehicle that will help me get to my destination of impacting the world is at the tip of my fingers. You know what that vehicle is? Social media.
It's free. It's free. And one thing that this does is that it eliminates whatever excuse you might have whatsoever. Imagine you're trying to get to Maza Maza, and everybody needs to get to Maza Maza before 2 p.m. And you hear that there's a bus outside waiting to convey you to your destination. And then imagine you're scared. And then someone comes and tells you, oh, no, it's free. It's free. Go and jump on it. If you do not jump on the bus, who do you have to blame? Yourself. And so here's the point. If personal branding means amplifying what I have going for me in small bits, then social media is a major vehicle to help me reach more people. And so many times the difference between you and the people that things are working out for, at least seemingly on social media, is that you've allowed your timidity get in the way. And so the first thing first is you've got something to say. You've got something to say. And the second thing is no one can say it like you. Nobody can say it like you. You know, I have this private mentorship group called The Mushroom. And people will sign up every month, you know, we're part of it, and it's always very cool stuff. And so very recently, I decided to teach them about personal branding and content creation. Now, for context, I can teach personal branding for 20 hours and will still not be done. So I'm trying to shorten as fast as possible what I can. In the masterclass, I'll go deeper into showing up in your digital space, right? But here's the point. And then in the midst of it, I was talking to them and I said something. I said, there are different ways to identify and carve out a niche for yourself. Because listen, first thing I said was you have something to say. Second thing I said is no one will say it like you. And one of the main problems you have in your mind and in your head could be, what I want to say, I've already seen somebody say it. If that's you, raise your hands. Have you ever had an idea to do something, but because you dragged your feet, someone else already did, the person is already popular for it. And then I hear business owners tell me this in business consultations. The market is so saturated, cute stuff. There's no such thing as a saturated market. What you have is a market where you have not employed strategies that make you stand out. And listen well. I don't care how many people are currently in the influencing space. Maybe fashion, film, lifestyle, whatever the case might be. There's nobody that will say something the exact way you would have said it. Even if we're all reading from the same line, we all will not say it or tell that story the same way. And here's where your uniqueness comes into play. You need to learn to tap into different aspects of your life that you maybe never paid attention to. And here's how to do it. You see, many of you don't know that some of the reasons God put you through those parts of your life or brought you through different experiences in your life is so you can tell a story about it later. There are some of you here, no matter how much I, Olushola, talk about people in pain and suffering, you can tell it more. Because you can tell it with your life. You felt it. And even if I say I once went to bed without food, you know what it feels to have gone to bed without food at least for a whole week. What happened to those experiences? Oh, or you think people only care about your success stories? Guess what? I can teach you how to turn your failures, caress them, package them, and tell them in such a way that is what leads you on the success journey. In fact, I dare say, many of you think that people are only attracted to those who have success stories to tell. But today I tell you that's not the case. In fact, I dare say that when you make your failure stories compelling, people are attracted to it. You know why? People are more attracted to progress stories than even stories of accomplishment. Take us through your journey. You're going through stuff. Tell it. Tell it. You learn stuff every day. Some days it's when you're on the sun for so long. Sun don't beat you just because you were waiting for a bus to take you to Lasso, and then you got on the bus and things were so terrible. But then in the midst of that journey, you found some time, plugged your ears, and found some sanity. Why not pick up a phone and talk about inner peace? This is important. There are angles and aspects of your life that you feel are so dark that no one wants to hear. But it's actually your weapon to reaching the world. I tell people this every time. I say sometimes you could even be the things people yapped you about when you were small. Now I'm a little bit more ambiverted. But when I was small, I was so talkative. So much. It was so bad that my mom would look at me and say, Shola, if you can sit down here for 1 minute and not talk, I'll give you 100 naira. I'm like, really? Yay! And then I keep quiet. At 52 seconds, just at the edge of glory, you hear me talk. And that's how I lose it. Sometimes they'll say you talk too much. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know how many thousands of dollars I get paid every month to talk too much? That's the beauty of creating and telling a story. That the story doesn't have to come from the most beautiful parts of your life or the things that people might have celebrated about you. The stories could come from periods and moments of pain. All you have to do is tap into that part of the inner recesses in your heart and in your mind, get the story, polish it in a refined form, and let it bless other people. Let it speak to other people. This is so important. Very, very vital. So number one, you've got something to say. Number two, nobody can say it like you. No one can say it like you. No one. And then social media is that vehicle. Or the media generally, decentralized media is a vehicle that to get you where you want to get to. Very important. Now the reason I'm hammering this home is because it will not matter what you know. It will matter who knows that you know what you know. People don't get paid for what they know. People get paid for what they know that they have converted to value. Some of you are sleeping on billion-dollar ideas or billion-dollar consultations in your mind. Some of you are so gifted. You are deeper than the people who are making billions off an idea. You know the difference between you and them? They show up and they do so consistently. But you are currently still in the obscurity for almost no reason other than you keep second-guessing yourself. Listen, I'm a big fan of starting the right way. But let me tell you the truth. Many times just start. Start. Kick off. Do something little. I'm not saying expose yourself too early. I'm saying start by testing your ideas in your immediate environment. I was speaking at a conference recently, and the conference was titled Global Relevance. And I told them, I said, listen, there's no global relevance without local excellence. So start from somewhere. You want to speak and motivate the entire world. Have you motivated your younger brother at home? You want to consult for leading organizations. The woman selling pepper in your street, have you taught her innovation? Start. Test the idea. That's how you build confidence. That's how you build. Test it. At the initial stages, it might look like, oh, how am I going to really do it? They will insult me. Listen, embarrassment is usually the cost of entry. You will initially be embarrassed. If I show you my videos from 2017, you will weep. You will shout. Step out regardless. Get your failures out of the way as fast as possible. Because if you don't fail now, you will fail later. And there's no greater school for self-development than the school of failure. Get it out of the way. Fail fast. Fail fast. Get it out of the way. The faster I do it, the faster I will be corrected. In fact, the faster I get it out, the faster I will know what works and what doesn't work. So failure is a schoolmaster that leads me to success. Failure is a schoolmaster that propels me on the path of attainment. That's what it is. The difference between many of us and the people who are making strides all around the world is not knowledge. No, it's not potential. It is how much potential they have made kinetic. Just move. The world doesn't pay you for standing still. Move. 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 Very important. And see, I need to say this in the best possible way. It is so important that you know this because I found out that procrastination in many cases is simply people trying to romanticize ideas. So, we will do feasibility study. When we are done, we will do SWOT. We will know how to enter, where from, to from. I get that. And it's good, don't get me wrong. Planning is very good. Don't start out something before you plan. But here's my point. As you plan, test. When you test, you will even see things that will make you go back to your drawing board while still testing. This is important. Very, very, very important. So do not let it. The world doesn't reward you for your great ideas. It rewards you for execution. That's why I'm planning to, is one of the things I detest the most in my life. I don't ask for too much. But if my daughter shows up and tells me she's about to get married to a young man, I will sit him down and I'll just ask him some very honest questions. What do you do? And what are you planning to do? If what he is planning to do is way more than what he's currently doing, I will walk him out of my house. Because it's a terrible pattern when every single thing that is great about you is still in the future. There must at least be footprint in the present. That's the point. Okay, he is planning to bring establish fintech. Are you doing fin? At least fin. Who won't take over tech? Just do something. Just do something. So very important. Start from where you are. Start from where? From where you are. Start from where you are. And the next thing I think I want to tell you is have a plan. In the masterclass, I'll talk a little bit more about more things. But have a plan. Have a plan. Have a plan. And so when we talk personal branding, one of the things you must avoid is to build a brand that is too everywhere, yet nowhere. Did you hear what I said? You can be everywhere, but nowhere. Can I say something? This is not really the class. I'm trying to see what to remove and what to keep. That's why if you notice, I was just talking without looking at anything because I don't want to get too much into my notes. Because those ones will take like hours before I exhaust. But let me tell you something. You are in a world that favors specialists more than generalists. How many of you agree? Quick one. How many of you are likelier to buy from a brand that... How many of you are likelier to buy from a brand that sells... Don't buy shoes. How many of you are likelier to buy from a brand that sells just shoes or from a brand that sells shoes, bikini, underwear, suit, kaftan, ready to wear? Why? Anybody? Huh? I can't hear you. That's their what? It hurts. It really does hurt. Because sometimes the brand that actually makes many of these, it could even have better shoes. But typically, as human beings, we have an idea. And this is our idea. You know, Alex Omosi said this. And he said his dad told him that a focused fool is better than a distracted genius. And that tells me something. Is that typically human beings appreciate specialty because one thing that bets specialization is focus. The fact that your eyes are fixed on something. The fact that you are so obsessed. That's the word. There's almost no one who has ever achieved monumental success without a given level of obsession. You know, one of the things I recommend, go and watch Mr. Beast's interview on Diary of a CEO. Anybody here watch the full interview? Yeah. Guy's ridiculous. Sorry, he's mad. Very mad. He said, and I quote, all his life he had only obsessed about one thing. And that one thing was YouTube. That one is almost demonic obsession. Because every single thing, you guys know who Mr. Beast is, right? Ah, okay, thank God, because people were looking at me a little bit funny. Mr. Beast is the most followed YouTuber in the world, and the guy who makes the most incredible bucks from social media. So that's who he is. And then he was talking about how almost all his life he had always built and just felt, look, so, YouTube. But here's the point. I'm not trying to make you develop an obscene obsession like Mr. Beast. But here's it. For anything you are trying to build, have a plan. Here's what I'm trying to say. The world favors many times specialists more than generalists, which means that when people have a problem they want to solve, they are likely to go to specialists. When you have an issue with your ear, your nose, or your throat, who do you go to? ENT. That's what you do. When people have cancer, they go to oncologists to help them through it. You have issues with your child, you very likely see a pediatrician, yes or yes. Sometimes someone in general medicine could even have better ideas, but you tend to gravitate towards that person a bit more. So here's the point. There's something called the power of niching. The power of what? Niching. I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I am not saying that you don't show the other beautiful parts or aspects of your life. What I'm saying is that put something at the forefront. If I asked you here, what do you want to be known for? You must have an unequivocal response. It must be, I want to be known for this, known for that, or known for this. You can't be known for everything and yet have people look and seek to you for consultations. No. If I mention Tao, what do you know her for? If I mention Donald J. Trump, what do you know him for? Entrepreneurship and what? Politics. If I mention Funke Akindele, what do you know her for? Let me share a hack that will always work. One of the main problems many of us have is that because we are divergent and multi-potentialite, just like myself, we tend to grapple and struggle with, what do I pick? Is it just me? Good. What do I pick? Where do I start from? And I teach that later. Where do I start from? Let me tell you something. I always tell you many times, start with the lowest hanging fruit. Here's the point. If you try to build everything at once, problem go dey. Because if you try to build everything at once, you will almost build nothing. And sometimes you must also be able to discern seasons in your potentials with God. Not every dream God has placed in your heart is for immediate expression. Not every dream is for immediate expression. It's not everything you are good at that you work on at the same time. Sometimes it is the acting that will get you to the limelight that will now enable you to build enough credibility to now let people know that you sing. Faust the bad guy was a lawyer who always loved to sing. How did you know him first? Elobe. Nas Boy has been singing since time immemorial. Pivoted a bit, did some comedy, blew up. What happened? What do you know him for? For singing. Here's the point, and this is exactly where I'm headed. It is that at the initial stages, you have to niche to a given extent, particularly in personal branding. Now, niching is not saying you might be known for just maybe one thing, but I'm simply saying build around a particular idea. You must have an introduction. It was Yasikan who said, if you don't have an introduction, you must be ready for a rejection. So when they ask you, what do? You must be able to say, once, this is what I do. Or I do this to help people achieve this. Are you getting what I'm saying? It will not be that you start listing all your competencies in your life. Sometimes let people come closer to you and find out the other giftings that you have. But one thing must pull them close first. It's a very important ingredient in personal branding. Because sometimes if your reputation is divided, it will never amount to something major. Branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And so I don't want people saying too many things because I want people to have some given level of consensus about who they think I am. Am I making any sense here? Very, very, very important. Now, when you have settled on what you want people to know about you, develop a structured plan on how you want to communicate that core competence. What's the plan? There must be a plan. I have 10 more minutes. Hey, okay, I'll be done. There must be a plan. One of the biggest vehicles, like I mentioned, is social media. And listen, I wish I had case studies to give you. Maybe I'll call someone here. You know what? Let's do that. Any volunteer? First person to get here. That's interesting. I would have always been the first volunteer anyway. No, she stood up first. Sorry, sir. She did. Thank you. But you two come. 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 How you doing, ma? What's your name? What do you do? You're a real estate consultant. Beautiful. Stay here. What do you do, sir? You're what? Data analyst. Stay here. All right. Good. Data analyst, real estate consultant, they're both trying to build their brands, right? What can I do or tell them as a brand specialist to help them grow their personal brand? So here's the thing. Peace, how long have you been doing what you do? You do what? You started in January. How many homes have you closed so far? About 5 homes. Beautiful. You? You started in 2024 January? Then? You build personal projects? You've gone on the street to help businesses volunteer. Beautiful. Now, guys, guess what? You know, one of the biggest challenges we will face is being able to communicate your story in a compelling fashion. She is into real estate. The average person here knows at least 100 people into real estate, yes or yes? Question is, what will stand her out? And then what will stand him out? Now, what will stand you out majorly is tapping into your personal story and your journeys to be able to help you, propel your image a bit better. So if I met Peace, and then she told me she's a real estate consultant, there's nothing she's going to tell me that might really make me stick because I know a million others. Guess what, guys? I went to speak at a conference sometime months ago, and I met a young man who blocked me at the toilet and said, "Hi, that was powerful, sir. Thank you." I said, "Oh, great. How you doing? What do you do?" He says, "I sell yam for a living." I said, I'm interested. Does it sound stupid or not? You sell yam for a living. This is because he chose something that wasn't the norm to ensure that he stands out. He brought up a very interesting idea to make him look separate and different from every other person who will say, "Oh, I sell nibbles, or I sell small chops, or I sell whatever." And I was interested, and I made sure to listen to him. So here's my point. What will make you different from the average real estate person who is selling homes? Or permit me to say, many of them try to be different in different ways, because at some point we all got tired of, "Hello everyone, right behind me is a massive place in Aja, 4-bedroom flat. Now they brought a lot of Lagos. You will love it. You see this swimming pool here? Small one here. You will love it." After those strategies got a bit tiring, they went to look for real estate consultants with massive IKB. If you are less than 18, close your ears. Don't ask me what IKB is. It's what is behind. And guess what they do? It's a strategy. The ladies walk away from the camera and show you the house. Nasty, right? That's what they believe is their UVP, unique value proposition. There must be something about you, your person, your brand that stands you out. As silly as that is, embrace the principle, don't copy it. Are you getting what I'm saying? Find what is unique. So for you, Peace, it could be a story. I can help you, for example, carve a very interesting story now. You know what I would do? And I just told Peace, if she wants to tell her story to make her stand out, what can she do? I'm giving an example. Let's say you grew up in Ajegunle. You could look at the fact that maybe you grew up in Ajegunle, and when you were growing up, your family moved from one rented apartment to another. So here's what I would have said. "Hi everyone, my name is Peace. You see, I grew up in the lower echelon of society. I'm the 4th of 6 children born to my dad and mom. Oh boy, we struggled. We went through different phases of our lives and different challenges. But one challenge was consistent. It was a housing problem. Almost every house we ever lived, we always had our things thrown out. And that was the case up until I clocked the age of 15 and left the house to stay with an aunt, only to meet the same problem again. And as I grew up, I missed many of the things I was passionate about. I had an inclination to solve a particular problem. That problem is a housing problem. Next thing I'll do, I'll bring statistics. 155 million Nigerians live in houses that do not belong to them. And because about 90% of Nigerians live below the poverty line, I'm just giving you statistics, could be vague, whatever it is, right? Now live below the poverty line, there clearly is an inability to meet up to the expectations of the landlords that house them. And so at Peace and Co, our major obsession has been on how to create affordable housing units for families in the lower part of the socioeconomic, strata. Are you getting my point? Now, can you see a difference? Can you see the difference? So, there's something etched in my brand story that makes it compelling. The difference between carpenter and interior designer and packaging. Nobody pays carpenter, interior designer money. Nobody pays tailor, fashion designer money. Every fashion designer that owns, I own a clothing company. It is powered by tailors. They are the ones sewing it. But if they stood alone, they will never command 300,000 naira for a suit. Highest they will command is 40K. You know why? People pay you for perception. They don't directly pay you for the value you give to them. They pay you for perceived value. And so, the goal of personal branding is how can I make myself top of mind? In a world where people are distracted, how can I ensure that all that I have to offer them remains top of mind? So you must find unique ways. I'm so sorry, time might fail me to share much about you, but I hope this helps. Thank you so much. And so, over the course of the next couple of months, if I were her, my goal would be, since I found a story that is compelling, how can I shorten the story, put it on my profiles, use social media as touch points to reach other people? And then, before you know it, I'll talk about that in the digital class, right? But before you know, you have to now look for how to show up. Are you getting my point? Now, how do I show up to ensure that people, see me? How do I show up to ensure, my time and about 2 minutes left. How do I show up to ensure that people see me? And it's very important. So, the final thing I want to say is this. When you show up, it will not matter if you come the first time. It only matters how often you show up. Is there anybody here who knows that in most cases you make a buying decision, not the first time you see a product? You make a buying decision the more you keep seeing a product. How many of you saw what Temu did to us when they came around? Quick question. How many of you have Temu'd your personal brands to that point? To make it irresistible. One of the things that improves your potential for irresistible brands is how often they show up. If already established institutions like Domino's always ensure they send you messages almost every week to come and buy pizza, despite the fact that they have physical presence in almost every major local government in every major city in Nigeria, how much more you? What is reminding people? Oh God. What is what? Reminding people about you. What's reminding people about your personal brand? What will make them see you every day and know that they need to patronize, or there's something about you that will make you stand out? Just yesterday night, one of the biggest speakers in the country, if I mention her name, everybody here knows. She sends me a DM and we're just talking. And she was like, obviously she had known me for a long time because her husband follows me. But she was like, there was something I did that made her follow me. Here's the point. Many of the times, people are observing more than you think they are. And some keep dragging their feet for one reason or another. But the power of consistency means that I must position myself in a way where I show up so consistently that they have almost no choice. Someone put it this way: success is never owned, it is rented, and the rent is paid every day. The rent is paid what? Every day. We're in a world where everybody has cute ideas, but few start. But not everybody that starts does something I call follow through. People don't follow through. And so showing up is all about consistency. How can I remain in the faces of my potential customers? How can I remain in people's faces every time? I end with this. It's because you live in a social media world where the distraction is so heavy that people will move on without you. Anybody here can mention at least one comedian that you knew 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, whose skits you've even forgotten about because the person has stopped posting. Let me tell you something. To people's minds, you are not as important as you think you are. You are only important to the degree that you show up. Did you hear what I said? How can you remain top of mind? How can you etch your work in the consciousness of people every single waking day? That should be your goal. And it is my hope that if you embrace some of the things I've taught and embrace consistency as a practice, you will ensure that you're able to leave enough footprints on the way to success. I hope this helps. See you in the masterclass. Thank you.
All right, the first question we have here, you say when you talk about focus, are you saying a business that has involvement in other businesses don't do well, especially when they are in line? I'll take that again if.
No, okay. I think I got the question.
Okay.
So let me say, focus is not averse to some principles of, what's it called now? I say it every time. Dummy. Diversification, that's the word. So focus is not averse to diversification, right? So if I get the person's question correctly, the person is saying that if you are saying we should focus, are you saying that we should not be involved in other lines of products, particularly in business, if it relates to us?
They're saying that they don't do well in other businesses as well.
No. That's not what. No. See, let me explain, and I hope this helps you. Someone put it this way, that when you are building a personal brand, right, specialize publicly but diversify privately. Did you hear what I said? Specialize what?
Publicly.
Diversify what?
Privately.
I would explain. I never said that you will not be successful if you choose to express yourself in other things. But here's my point. Focus is so important, first and foremost, for you. When something becomes your daily obsession, if it's in your heart enough, it will come to your mind. And if it's in your mind enough, it will come to your hands. Right? And so many times, particularly if you're an entrepreneur here, I'm going to tell you what works. It is that when you build something, right, for a particular period of time enough, you're able to build, you're able to innovate properly, you're able to incrementally work on things that need to help the brand grow. But here's the point. When you are known for something and you are successful in something and have at least built enough credibility in one thing, it becomes easier for you to test other ideas with the same audience through which you have built something noteworthy. Are you getting what I'm saying? If Dangote comes up and says he wants to start oil business, why do you think many people think he will be successful? Why do you think he got investors? It's because he was already successful in FMCG, sugar, milk, and all the other things he used to do, including cement. Am I making sense? And also, am I also saying that because you are doing sugar, you cannot move into salt? No, not at all. Diversification comes in different forms and different modes, right? There are some, how many of you are familiar with the words cross-selling and upselling? Right? Sometimes, right, you need to understand that there are specific products in your range of products that attract people to you. And then from that product or from that purchase, you are able to point them to the other things that you sell around. So, for example, if you own a clothing brand and you maybe major in suits, it's okay if suits gets customers in and then you can sell shoes to them. I was just using that as an example to let you know that people naturally gravitate more towards specialists. So here's the thing. Amongst all the products that you sell, in most cases, you will be known and popular for at least one thing. You guys know what I'm talking about. I can tell you some. Chicken Republic, what were they popular for? Chick Whiz or different stuff, chicken, right? And then with the chicken, they are selling what? Other stuffs. I particularly love their, I'm hosting their CEO, for my masterclass soon. Incredible man. I particularly love the fact that they use the chicken, obviously, to draw people close, but the chicken comes with many other things. Are you getting my point? So you can find ways to associate some products with other products that can flow from the main one. Do you get that? So I hope it helps.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So we get that right. It says specialize publicly, diversify privately.
And then later on, how many of you know that the CEO of Goldman Sachs is a DJ at night?
Yes. Yeah.
He is. What if I told you that Baba Fi don't love? See, you know how much it makes per year? The DJ thing had always been in his mind and in his skill set for the longest. But he found out that almost nobody will want to pay to watch me DJ until I've proven myself successful in one other thing before. Are you getting my point? And in many cases, because the goal is to prove to be successful and credible first. Pick one thing first. And then you have enough time. Funke Akindele today is a realtor. You'd not hear this from me, but I can tell you she makes more money from real estate than from movies.
Thank you, sir. So the next question we have, what's your opinion on the saying, any publicity is good publicity?
Madonwo. Listen, the goal is not to be viral. Did you hear what I said? The goal is not for you to be viral. You know, many times virality more or less means momental success. Success that just springs up in the moment. And let me tell you something. You can't jump up to be tall. You have to grow to be tall. Because if you jump, you will fall down. If I jump, I'll come down. But if I choose to grow, that way, I grow properly enough so when I get to the top, I've got what? Deep enough roots to keep me from falling. And so we're in a world where people many times pick temporary pleasure or temporary announcement or instant virality as against building sustainable brands. How many of you can remember this guy, Tupac Shakur? I'll choke you in the eye. This Nigerian guy. Kamaru. Something Kamaru. Black Kamaru, right? Fun fact. How many of you thought about him in the last 1 to 2 years? Nobody. You only remembered because I brought him to your consciousness. Yes or yes? Good. It simply means that sometimes when the wind of virality blows on you, they have to do something extra to sustain it. Because you are in a world where the average person has got very short attention span. And even if they rave with you for the moment, you will never be on top forever. So what will keep you in the minds of people, at least for a considerable period of time, is how deep your roots are. And also your ability to pivot. And here's the point. When you say, is all publicity, or is every publicity good publicity, you're going to have to be careful. Because if you go public for the wrong reasons, and even if people appreciate and enjoy it in the interim, people don't embrace fully for too long. Their consciousness comes to play and they're like, okay, you've been there, done that. How many of you know the guy that used to remove shirts? That wasn't bad, that wasn't foolish stuff, but he couldn't sustain it. Remove shirt and walk like a gorilla. You know him, right? Good. I was waiting for him or his management or someone to advise him that, come, all the attention, you know, go past 1 to 2 months, it go fade off. And what used to excite people will begin to irritate them. You are doing too much. We have seen it. So, deep roots. And then finally, if you are trying to aim for bad publicity just to get to the top, you might get some cheers, at least in public. But in private, they will say things that will negate your brand. And if you notice many times, many of these silly people that get to the top by reason of bad publicity always many times end up looking for something good to sustain that publicity. Ask Kim Kardashian. Or ask the Nigerian versions. I won't mention their names. They always try to look for something. And most importantly, I'll say this. Posterity never looks good to them. It's not enough to grow. You must grow well. I'm telling you this for a reason. Stop cutting corners and looking for shortcuts to fame. In many cases, who even told you that fame equals success? Not every successful person is famous, and that's okay. Fame can help you become successful, but in the same vein also, it can help you truncate your life. So I'll put it that way. Not every publicity is good publicity, and I hope that helps.
Not every publicity is good. By the way, that gorilla guy, I know the reason why he stopped.
Tell me.
Shirt don't the cost. To tear shirts.
Selfish.
So another question. How can I confidently express my unique perspective and opinions on social media to build a strong personal brand without fear of being wrong or criticized?
If you are not, if you don't have the courage and boldness to be hated, run away from personal branding. Have you heard this famous song by Ron Kenoli? If I do 99 good, he go remain one. You know the song now by Dom Wen?
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Domain featuring Frank
Listen,
Edwards.
yes, you know it now. I noticed you were in the behind the scenes.
I was
You were the
vixen,
vixen.
yeah.
I realized. Only here. Here's the point. There's nothing you're doing, no matter how noble the cause might be. As long as you're dealing with human beings, you must be ready for opposition. And so the first thing you must learn is this. Take commendation with a pinch of salt. So when condemnation comes, it will not get to you. Because if you live off their validation, you will die of their rejection. And so listen, as I'm doing this social media work and putting myself out there to the best of my capacity, I am not doing it for them, even if their applause is important to me. You must find validation first from within, next from credible people around you. Criticize, you will be criticized no matter who you are, no matter what it is you do. So you must brace up for it. You must what? Brace up for it. And that's why I said earlier that embarrassment is usually the cost of entry. You must be ready to be embarrassed, at least at the beginning. And before you know it, you grow and you improve. That's why in many cases, you must test your ideas on a very smaller plane first before you take it out there. Are you getting me? Sometimes start with yourself. Speak in front of the mirror first. After that, ask your friends, how do I sound? Are you getting my point? Next thing, record yourself. Post it to your 2K followers first. Or your 800 followers yet. I must say this before you ask your next question. One of the major things that we need to learn, particularly in your personal branding and social media optimization journey, is that you need to learn to rethink the numbers. How many of you are in this room, if you do not mind? An average of, let's say, 200, 300, 400 people. Yes or yes? What if I told you I get those views in 2 minutes of making an Instagram post? But you know how big a deal this is to me? It's a big deal and bigger deal to me than my 2 minutes of social media because I am seeing you guys physically. Are you getting my point? And that's why typically, if a Nigerian artist sells out O2 Arena, everybody shouts about it. But when you sell out on your Instagram to the same 50,000 people, what happens? Almost nobody applauds you for it. Listen, if lizard fall from the tree and fall to the ground and nobody praise him, he go praise himself, he go not. Start rethinking the numbers. You are doing better than you think. You are. Every single time I do a post and 100 people see it, do you know what a church of 100 people look like? I preach to 1,000 people in my branch that I pastor every Sunday. And those 1,000 people, I cherish them more sometimes than the numbers I get on social media. But let me tell you something. The social media numbers are just as important. You know why? Because it's all about mind share. The only difference is one is physical, but one is virtual. Every time you get, even if it's one view, it's enough reason to encourage yourself. Rethink those numbers. That way, when you see 4 likes, but 40 views, you stop beating yourself too badly. Are you getting this? I hope it helps. Maybe I'll talk more about it in the masterclass.
Thank you very much, sir. Because of time, we can only take one more question. I think you will do the rest in the masterclass.
That's fair. Thanks.
Yeah. So this question, say, what's the most important lesson you've learned about yourself and your personal brand throughout your career? The most important lesson you've learned about yourself.
Also, familiar. I'm trying to think because you asked most important lesson. Okay, most important lesson I think I've learned is that success is a lion. you have to keep on being it. Let me explain. The most important thing I've learned is that passion and motivation are overrated. That's what I've learned. Motivation is overrated. One of the greatest football managers of all time goes by the name Arsene Wenger. For those of you who watch football, you know him. Arsene Wenger was able to build different successful teams across his career as manager. And recently, someone asked him, what would you say is the most important quality that a footballer can possess to be successful? And he looked and said, the most important quality is stamina in motivation. Many of us, this is what I've learned to be the most important thing about myself. It is that I learned so soon that motivation will not last. And it's fleeting. Many of you, the reason you are yet to build successful personal brands is that you keep waiting for ginger. You think social media is a hobby. It's work. Hobby is what you do in your free time. Work is what you find time to do. So showing up must be work to you and not hobby. Because if you are waiting for all your bones and your feelings and motivations to align before you get to work, you will get nothing done. And so the most important thing I have learned, and I've also had to make myself become, is somebody who doesn't wait for motivation, but somebody who brings motivation out from himself every time. And until you have learned to do something when it costs you, or until you have learned to do something even when you don't feel like it, you will never become a master of it. So I think that's the most important thing that I've learned.
Wow. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Please keep a round of applause for Pastor Olushola.